subscribe button, even though we still have about another minute or so. And I don't know if my voice has gotten cut off since I started talking. But I do thank all of you for joining here on this beautiful Sunday morning. Just a quick live stream to start out the week. Thank you all for joining. We got 25 of you in here, so thank all 25 of you. I'm still currently setting this up. You can see I got OBS open here. I'm trying to get everything working right. This is my very first time using OBS or even live streaming from Wayland, because apparently Wayland is actually working on Ubuntu, so that is magnificent. Wayland is usually has given me trouble, and it gave me a trouble just a minute ago when I was moving around this chat window. Yeah, see, it disappeared, and it's kind of choppy when I move around this window capture, and see, it went away. It's doing some of that, but as long as I leave it still, it seems to be actually working okay. So interesting that out of all the times that I decide to use Wayland, it's when I just install Ubuntu on hardware. So cool, I guess. Yeah, it's Sunday morning here. It's nice and early. Not too early. It's almost noon, but we're just hanging out. Am I late? No, you are not late. What I'm going to be doing in this live stream particularly, other than BSing around and talking to chat, is I'm going to talk about why I threw Ubuntu on my main computer. I'm going to be talking about some failures and successes thus far. The main success was, if you haven't noticed in the back on this bulletin board here, I always had a GPU mounted to the bulletin board that I wasn't using, and it was a, here, let's open up terminal real quick. Let's get this OBS, not OBS, let's get that out of the way. I'm going to bring in chat a little closer so I can actually see it. There we go. Let's open up a terminal here. And you can see at the moment I have two graphics cards in my machine, and it's not set up, they're not connected together. I'm using a NVIDIA GTX 1650 as well as a Radeon 8GB 580 card at the same time. Ooh, we got some. Hey, what Ubuntu version were you running yesterday? Yeah. Yesterday I was, I think I still have one somewhere. Yesterday I was a little too deep in some of these, and instead of going to the Ubuntu website, I just got the latest ISO I had. So I ended up running Groovy Gorilla, and then wondering why package management wasn't working properly. But everything I said in the video still holds true, because the Synaptic package manager is much better than that the Ubuntu store, the GNOME store, whatever it's based off of. But I was using an older, unsupported version of Ubuntu. But Synaptic worked, and it pulled all the packages fine, so that's another reason why it's a good package manager. Okay, Farron. This week has got weirder and weirder. Ultimate glitches, now Sonic's becoming a fish. And now Deca on Ubuntu. Yeah, okay, I'll get to why I'm actually on a Ubuntu. The main reason why I constantly switch way more than I should between Linux distributions is because I want to give it a full dedicated review of me actually using it for a little while. I usually just go with the narrative that there are better things, and Ubuntu is something that most people don't like, noobs use Ubuntu, and things like that. And the last time I actually used it was the first time I ever used Linux, and that was back in 2008 on like a full-time consistent basis. So I think it's time for me to use it for at least a couple weeks, 2 weeks to a month, to give you guys my review. And one thing that's handling very well in Ubuntu is this dual graphics card thing I have going. So I have the Radeon plugged into my monitors, and it's the main graphics card running the displays and all that. But then I have that GTX 1650. It's not too powerful of a card, but for what I'm using it for, it seems like it's working okay, because I'm using it, one, to do my OBS encoding, So I have OBS using that NVIDIA graphics card, which is working very well by the looks of it so far, unless if this crashes, which I hope it doesn't, because like I said, that NVIDIA GPU has been mounted to my wall for the better part of the year, and I'm surprised it just worked when I put it in. One of the reasons why Linux is awesome. And I'm using it to run DaVinci Resolve, because DaVinci Resolve definitely gives you some problems if you're trying to run it on Linux, unless if you have the perfect setup. And the perfect setup for DaVinci Resolve is running like Fedora with a high-spec NVIDIA GPU. If you have that, you could just download it from their website and install it, run it just fine, no issues. Me, I was trying to do it in distributions that were not supported, and Ubuntu is technically one of those that are not supported, but there's a beautiful little tool. If I go over here into my downloads folder, you can see I have a whole bunch of different things. It's this right here, it's the make resolve deb, which basically gets the zipped file of all the DaVinci Resolves. It converts it into a Debian package, which then you could go ahead and install it. And if you're somebody who's using a Radeon or AMD GPU, it's just not going to work. You're going to have to try to get the pro drivers. You're going to have to try to trick the system to only use them for opening Resolve. It's a hassle. Thus why I threw in the NVIDIA card. I mean, I got it to work a couple times. I got it to work in EndeavourOS just fine with the AMD Pro drivers and running the ProGL command to open the DaVinci Resolve program from the OPT or OPT or OTP, one of those directories. Open up the binary with that command, so it forces DaVinci Resolve to use those Pro drivers. But with this, it just worked. So like if I go ahead, let's throw open DaVinci Resolve. Like I said, I don't have my OBS completely set up yet, so I'm gonna go, let's just, here, I'm gonna select my screen capture, right click, transform, and let's do a stretch to screen. There we go, a little bit better. We'll get Discord out of here. And I could just open up a project. So new project, and we'll call this temp. And this usually doesn't work that well. The Ubuntu, well, I haven't tried the dual graphics card things on other distributions. It would probably work completely fine. But if I go over here, I go to preferences. Am I blocking it too bad? Not really. And under memory and GPU here, you can see it's using the CUDA, it's using the NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1650, but I'm currently plugged into my Radeon. So this and OBS are the two applications that get their own graphics card. And it's not a super powerful graphics card. There's an exception now because I got the 1650 Super for like $220 when, not even when it came out, like a year and a half ago or so. And so to me it was just a cheap graphics card. I threw it on my wall. And like right now to buy one of those 1650s on eBay, it's like $400, $500 because the GPU market's so screwed up. Yeah. I thought Brandon still used EndeavourOS. I generally do. EndeavourOS, it would be hard to pick between Fedora and EndeavourOS to run on a daily basis for me. But the main reason is, the main reason I'm on Ubuntu right now is to test it, to accurately form an opinion on it instead of just recycling everybody else's opinion, which is honestly what I've been doing with Ubuntu. And I realized that, so that's why we're on it. And with that said, we can go ahead and check out the system. It's a customized GNOME system. Before we do that, let's just open up NeoFetch so you all can see what I am running here. Or let's install NeoFetch so you all can see what I'm running here. Sudo apt install NeoFetch. And it's Ubuntu, uses apt. Ubuntu's a good base. Yes, we want that. Cheers from the Dominican Republic, thank you. Whatever you run, it will be as stable as your hardware, that is true. Okay, so now we can run NeoFetch, and you can see I have 3 GPU sections being detected here, but we are running Ubuntu 21.04. Here, let's zoom back in here and try not to screw up the scaling. Here, I'm gonna have to drag this over here. Sorry, guys. I'm gonna get my life together eventually here. Right about there, because I want you guys to be able to see what I'm doing. Whoop. Okay, so I am running the that's the 5.11 kernel on this version of Ubuntu, which is the I think it's Hersite or Hearsite Hippo, basically Hairy Hippo. One, this background definitely is cursed. I'm not gonna say what it looks like, but it looks like something. Packages, I didn't install too much, so there's right around 2,000 packages out of the gate. We have Bash 5.1. You can see my two resolutions here. You can see the, not GPUs, it's a CPU. My CPU is the Ryzen 3700X, and then I have two GPUs, the Radeon RX 580 and that 1650 that I was talking about. I'm using a lot of RAM. I'm using 4 gigabytes of RAM, but that makes sense because I have Discord, 3 Firefox, Windows, OBS, so that makes sense. But yeah, and Ubuntu seems to be running pretty good. The only thing when it comes to performance that I noticed is before I got DaVinci Resolve working this morning, I edited the video I made last night in Kdenlive, and one of the ways I can kind of see the difference in speed with some things is when you use the audio synchronization feature within Kdenlive, because it has to scan it, and it takes it about, on my computer, depending on the length of the footage, anywhere from 3 to 7 seconds, basically, depending on the distribution. This one took a little bit longer than something like Fedora or Endeavor, but overall the performance seems pretty good, other than those little Wayland issues that we've been seeing. But again, it's not too bad if I actually just leave the window alone. You can see that. If I move around the chat window, it kind of glitches out a little bit. The capture, the specific window capture can't keep up with me moving it around all over the place. Will you ever switch back to Windows or maybe even Mac OS? I don't have it on me, but I'm technically using Mac OS every day. I'm using the on the MacBook M1 Air. I said that it's the M1 MacBook Air. And I don't know, it's been a really good experience. It's an extremely powerful laptop. One thing we could bring up here, if I pull out a window, bring it over here, make sure you all can see it properly. So I'm still I'm getting my life together over here. I just installed this, so I got a lot of things out of whack. And it looks like there's some artifacting here and there on the corners, but nothing too crazy. So let's bring this, and let's go into the Geekbench login. What do you think about Void? I have no opinions on Void because I've never used it. To me, to give an opinion, it would be improper because I don't know really. I watched the DistroTube video and it seemed pretty cool. So let's go ahead and log in. Or am I already logged in? There we go. Here are all my Geekbench results that I've ever done all the way back since, is there dates on these? Let's see. October 11th of 2020. So that's when I first started saving my Geekbench results that I've been running. This is for all those different benchmarking videos and everything, and all you have access to all of these if you'd like to. And right over here, I did a Geekbench test on that the MacBook Air with that M1 processor. You see platform Mac OS, and you can see the scores. Very high scores. And the Ubuntu virtualized on the MacBook did very well. This was posted on Twitter, so it's not much of a spoiler, but this will be talked more about in a video coming up. But the thing that's really crazy to me is if we get this score of the MacBook Air, and we compare it to something like Windows 10 on my Ryzen 3700X. I mean, it has a much better single core performance versus a Ryzen 3700X. The little Apple M1 processor has better performance than a Ryzen 7 3700X. The Ryzen has better multi-core performance, obviously, but the multi-core performance for the M1 is pretty close. It's pretty close. It's about a little under 2,000 difference. So it's a very powerful mobile CPU. I'm definitely surprised with the performance. And I have a whole bunch of other results here that basically say the same thing. Coffee, coffee. And if I go down, honestly, I know I'm getting a little off track here, but the best score out of everything I have on here, Windows 10 did pretty good. Debian, just vanilla Debian, not 11, I think it was Debian 10, did good as well. But if we go down here, the best multi-core performance distribution that I ever benchmarked was Solus. Solus Bungie, their just default desktop environment and all that. Firefox on Linux. Yeah, running Linux natively on the M1 would be absolutely fantastic. I didn't get it to run natively. You can get the Linux to run natively on the M1 Mac Minis, but getting it to run on the laptops is not really feasible yet because some of the drivers, like the touchpad, is kind of weird and it just doesn't work all the way yet. So it's not really feasible to do that yet, but you can virtualize. You can virtualize any ARM. Like for the video I have coming up, we got the Ubuntu ARM Server Edition. Installed that, installed the Ubuntu desktop package, and got a couple drivers for the software we used, and it performed very well for virtualization software. And the cool thing about those M1s and virtualization is, like, through VirtualBox you have to like specify how many cores you want to give it, and usually it runs like crap unless if you have a really good processor and you could give it like half of your processor. With the M1s in virtualization, it just takes your entire CPU. So it just runs side by side with whatever the host operating system is, which is Mac, and it can utilize everything. So the performance is phenomenal. Between the MacBook Air and Ubuntu 20.04, in a virtual environment with Mac still running as the host, there was only a 6 to 12% performance decrease in the virtualized Ubuntu environment. So that was cool. Okay, I'm going to read chat real quick. Sorry, I've been rambling. I bet TechHut can't even disable the bad. Yeah, I can't. Tech, the Pop! OS distro is good for beginners. I would say so. Pop! OS is nice, especially now because it kind of... basically, this bar you see right here on the side, this stereotypical Ubuntu thing, they basically threw that on the bottom, centered it, and added a separate workspaces and activities panel thing. So it's a little bit more familiar, and the pop tiling that's integrated is absolutely beautiful. So Pop! OS is definitely a good thing for beginners. Did you remember you just installed Debian on a virtual machine? Yeah, do you prefer dash to panel or the default Ubuntu GNOME? Look, honestly, if I could get it to work, is this GNOME 40? Is this GNOME 40 or is this still behind? GNOME at 38. So yeah, I'm probably going to install dash to dock because I was just running Manjaro with GNOME for a little bit, and I really did enjoy using dash to dock. And it was weird too because here, I'm going to do it Farron. Can you check by right click on the title bar and choose custom toolbar? Let's see, custom toolbar, and can you tick the title bar in there? Let's see, where's title bar? Oh, there it is. Oh, there's our live stream. Did it enable? Here, I'm gonna hit done. Hopefully all my Firefox windows stay open. Ugh. That looks gross. Okay. What was I saying? I forgot what I was saying. It was moderately important. Oh yeah, I was running Ubuntu, not Ubuntu, I was running Manjaro. Yep, yeah, thanks GNOME. The one thing, Manjaro GNOME, the Manjaro team did absolutely fantastic with GNOME because one, it was GNOME 40, dash to dock was working, so I'm still trying to figure out exactly how they did that so I could present it to you guys. And their Firefox integration with the GTK theming in GNOME was beautiful. It was absolutely fantastic. So it was good. What's your experience with Debian 11? I haven't really used Debian 11 too much. I did the video where I installed it in a virtual machine and I played with it. But one thing that I've noticed is with any of the main distributions that other distributions are based off of, you can literally tell, yeah, I click activities and this is on the side versus, yeah. Let's see. Where did it go? Debian. Debian is a very strong performer. It doesn't have very many packages from the gate. It doesn't use very much RAM at all. Even if you're running on GNOME, it's very strong. And you can see this compared to some of the other things I was doing. I compared it to Windows 10 and Endeavour OS, and it beat out both Windows 10 and Endeavour OS, which is basically Arch, by just a little bit. It beat out Windows 10 by a good chunk, but it had a slight edge on Endeavour OS with those benchmarks. Hello, Pizza. How are you doing? Do you think GNOME 40 will break extensions that are compatible, or 41 will break 40? It depends on what the extension actually does, because what were some of the things? I just looked at this. There was here, GNOME 41, and I think OMG Ubuntu. So it depends on the things. So new multitasking panel. So the panel's one thing. It probably won't actually change some of the settings. But if you have an extension that actually manipulates, like disabling and enable hot corners or changing the screen edging, things like that, I could see those getting broken because it might rely or it might try to disable it through here. So that could be a conflict. When it comes to the extensions, it just, if things conflict with one another after the update, that's when things start to break. And that's probably the main thing. Another thing is the power options and start menu. So if you have something that customizes the native one, that might break. But if you're using something like dash to panel where it's something else, that might be okay. But it just depends on what changes or what plugins you're talking about. GNOME calendar, connections, new app. This is going to be something that's cool. You're going to be able to log into other PCs and control them through connections. It uses the boxes software and interface. It borrows a lot of that. Yeah, I saw that on Twitter. People are banging on that. That always happens to me, especially it's Sunday, so Monday morning we have landscapers out here, and I can, like, if I don't time my video perfectly, I'm not going to be able to do one Monday mornings, which is going to be fine because I'm going to be in school anyway. Is Archcraft OS good for daily driver? I don't have too much experience with Archcraft, but honestly, I would go with Endeavour or maybe even Arco Linux. But Archcraft is probably fine. Is it really good? Not sure what you're referring to. I'm an Ubuntu user for a long time and want to try another distro. I've been keeping an eye on Manjaro. I've seen a lot of reviews saying it's the best thing. Honestly, if you are used to using Ubuntu in GNOME, I would recommend the Manjaro GNOME because it's a little bit better, to be frank. It really is. Let's see. Linux doesn't make some music out of it for the background, yeah. Did you really switch to Ubuntu? Yep, this is my primary machine. I'm not switching it to it forever. I'm switching it to it primarily for the purpose of doing a review on it. But so far it's been a pretty decent experience. It's handled this dual GPU thing that I'm doing fairly well. You can see right here, for the people who weren't in the beginning, I installed both my typical Radeon 580 and a GeForce GTX 1650, because the GTX 1650 is going to be handling things like OBS now, as well as DaVinci Resolve, because DaVinci Resolve does not like AMD at all. So I installed a whole NVIDIA GPU just to give it to DaVinci Resolve, basically. Yeah, I chose Ubuntu because it's just, I wanted to go with the default. I wanted to go with what other people recommend, because like, if you're somebody who doesn't really know much about Linux, chances are you're going to have at least heard of Ubuntu. And a lot of people, when they go over to Linux, they go, oh, I'm going to install a Linux distro, or I'm going to install Linux. Linux is Ubuntu. And that's what a lot of people think, especially if you haven't dabbled around or read too much about what's going on. This is what Linux is. And that was the case for me when I first started getting into it a long time ago. I looked for a free operating system, an alternative to Windows, and this was the first result, so it's what I went with. And that still happens to a lot of people who are looking for that alternative. They just Google. Here, let's Google. We go over here. Let's say we were looking for a free alternative to Windows 10. All right. Okay, this says top 12 free. I would not recommend going with the free BSD if you're just looking for an alternative. So let's go to this computer world, and man, these are weird suggestions that these websites are giving you. 6 free alternatives to Windows. Yeah, see, Ubuntu's number one. So being that it's number one, this is what a lot of people would go with. But those are some weird results for the first time. They recommend free DOS, free BSD, React OS. Like, what? 10 free Windows 10 alternatives. Ubuntu is number one. So a lot of the recommendations lean towards Ubuntu. But some of these top results, I was not expecting that. Chrome OS I'd expect, but not free BSD as in the list for the top things. That is not going to help. Went dormant ages ago. Yeah, how old is this web? 2019. Yeah, see, that's silly. And see, little results like this are really not good. This one looks like, well, this is the number one right here. So this is probably what people are going to click on. And they're going to scroll down, and the first thing they're going to see is Ubuntu. And they're like, oh, it's number one. It's probably the better. So they're going to go with that. They have the Raspberry Pixel, which is very specific when it comes to the device. So that might not need to be there. Linux Mint, should be number 2 for sure. You have a good lunch pizza? I'm still on Windows 7. Zorn OS, this is beautiful. So other than this result right here, I mean, this is a really solid list. Got a plane going, sorry if you guys can hear it. And Cloud Ready, which is this is basically Chrome OS maybe? Cloud-based Chrome OS. Yeah, I'm not sure what Cloud Ready is, to be completely frank. But overall, Zorin, Linux Mint, and Ubuntu, these are the ones that people are going to go with. And out of these, personally, Zorin is probably what you should go with. But most people are going to be going with Ubuntu initially, and that's why I threw myself into this ecosystem, because I want to give a proper review for it. Okay, so now I can pay attention to chat. Cloud Ready lets any PC install Chrome OS. That's awesome. That's a good feature. Chrome OS is actually pretty good. I've been watching a lot of the Chris Titus Tech videos. He's been doing a lot of videos. Not that Chris Titus. We want Chris Titus Tech. There we go. He's been doing a lot of videos recently on Chrome OS, and they've been pretty good. If I go under videos, he's done the integrate Arch Linux into Chrome OS, install any application on Chrome OS, and there's a couple others. It's an unappreciated masterpiece. Chrome OS is pretty good, so I'd recommend watching their videos if you are interested in getting into checking out Chrome OS. I knew Linux because someone earlier, I was bored and thought, I feel like a hacker, I want to learn Linux, so here I am. Yeah, that's also how a lot of people go too. Let's see. It doesn't support Android apps. Let's see. Yes, Mr. Ubuntu, the devil. Chrome OS. Isn't your distribution based on Ubuntu? Chrome OS is good, but Chrome OS doesn't support Bluetooth adapter, which is no good for me. Yeah, everything has a hit or miss. And it's made by Google, so there's also that. Yeah, so one thing that I wanted to do is kind of explore this operating system like I normally would. So I'm going to go ahead and shut this down real quick, and I'm just going to be going through, opening some things. Does my scaling look right? I think it does. Let's see. I run dual boot. Since you make videos, do you consider Ubuntu Studio? Not really, because Ubuntu Studio is just a big... Ubuntu Studio is just a big list of packages that it comes with, and like the main things I use, I like using DaVinci Resolve, Kdenlive. These two together are awesome. I use these. I use this for video editing. I use Kdenlive basically as a tool for like quick cuts and to render videos down, but Ubuntu Studio doesn't come with DaVinci Resolve, and the things I do need I can install with a single like command. Just list out the packages I need. Why did you switch? Primarily to do a review. That's really the main reason. And so far it's working pretty good. If I go ahead, let's open up our applications. You guys aren't going to be able to see everything here, but like right here under additional drivers, this tool worked absolutely fantastic. This is how I installed those NVIDIA drivers to get it linked up to DaVinci Resolve and OBS. So just selected the latest one, applied, everything worked okay. Do GPU pass-through. I'm considering doing that. I think that would be cool. Pure Chrome OS, but it's a very involved, yeah. Ubuntu software, we have a lot of different options here to check different repositories, check when we want our updates. Their little software and updates tool is fairly nice. If I go back to the applications, a lot of this I added. Their files application, it's just, I'm pretty sure this is just GNOME files, but I'm not really a fan of their theming. Let's go to a dark theme. Do they have a dark theme? So let's go into the settings and appearance. Beautiful. Okay, let's fix this. Let's go with the Ubuntu dark theme. That's looking a little bit better. Yeah, I use Kdenlive for all my editing. I have to check out DaVinci Resolve. Keep It Techie. Welcome, Keep It Techie. Another wonderful YouTube channel, if anybody's interested. Yeah, Kdenlive is really good. DaVinci Resolve is more of like a professional suite. If you have a NVIDIA card, you are good to go, basically. If you do not have a NVIDIA card, it is a pain in the butt to get DaVinci Resolve to actually work. It's very doable in Arch, but it's much more of a hassle in other Linux distributions. Let's see. I do not like Cloud Ready. Have you experienced any screen tearing on XFCE distros? I have not, but I have definitely experienced screen tearing. If I could get it to do it again. There we go. It's a very reliable bug, that's for sure. So we got that dark theme good. Let's run through, because I haven't done really anything on this. We got a bunch of hippos here. Like I said, this wallpaper is absolutely cursed. Let's see, I used 20.04 instead of 20.1 because 21.04 was buggy a lot. I haven't noticed anything too major. I had problems when I was an idiot last night and I installed Groovy Gorilla instead of this. Then I was wondering, why is nothing working when it wasn't supported? Appearance, you can see my displays and all that. Icon sizes, we could go ahead and change this. Actually, yeah, let's move this down. Let's go with 40. Notifications here, we do not disturb. We can enable lock screen notifications, and here are all of our options. Here, let's get this out of the way. We don't want our file browser anymore. Right there. Beautiful. So I can enable and disable various notifications for this. For example, screw Firefox. I don't want any notifications from that. But everything else I do, especially my Kdenlive renders, so you can see when those are done. Search, you can search for, well, searching just like 2 plus 2 equals 4. That's an example of what that's talking about. So integrates other things within search, calendar, characters, passwords, terminal. Under applications here, we can set different options for the specific application. So additional drivers, notifications. Let's see, does DaVinci Resolve have anything? Default handlers, file types. So yeah, just typical things like this. Discord, we have a lot of different things because that enables like screen recording, camera permissions, microphone permissions, things like that. Disks is here. Firefox, I don't really want to change any of that. Displays, it's typical GNOME display settings, works very well. Time and date, default applications, very easy to go ahead and select that. We have our user control. And that's really it. Oh, that's cool. This thing just worked out of the gate. So that's nice. That doesn't really happen too often in Linux distributions. Like usually you have to at least add the printer, but I didn't even need to add that. So that is definitely nice. Alright. Let's see what chat's doing. I haven't looked in a minute. Set up Ubuntu like a power user maybe. Shortcuts and tricks. I can't even call myself a power user. How are your eyes aren't fully red till now after seeing that much red tech in the screen? Yeah. 1 a.m. or sus. Yeah, no, it's noon for me. Nice feature to calculate, yeah. I would love to stay, but the homies are going to going to Jackbox. You have an absolutely beautiful day. You do not need to stay. I would honestly prefer that. Let's see here. I'm trying to think, there's not really too much else to talk about because I've really done it's Ubuntu. It's not really too exciting. I want to switch from Manjaro a few weeks. This is version 21.04. So I made the mistake of installing Groovy Gorilla last night because I was a little inebriated when I did that process. I just pulled what was on my backup drive. I prefer watching someone switch to Ubuntu. Yeah, you should probably go study for your exams. That's personally my recommendation. But yeah, we got DaVinci Resolve to work. For those of you who are just coming in, I got a beautiful little dual GPU setup right now, and it's working wonderful out of the box, which I didn't expect that, to be completely honest. My computer recognizes the two GPUs. It's recommending NVIDIA to applications that support hardware encoding. Overall, it's working absolutely great. One thing I'm going to do real quick is it's time to push the Discord. We have a Discord server. If I can copy this link here. Invite people. Never. No limit. Generate new link. This right here is... Oh, no, it's not. I think that's my UUID. Oh no, I need to change that now. Here, I'm going to copy this real quick. Paste. There we go. Alright, so that is our Discord link. I would recommend everybody to join. With all that said, I hope you all have an absolutely beautiful day. We are approaching 45 minutes of the live stream. Go ahead and jump into that. Here, I'm going to get rid of that real quick. No, I could change that with a click. There, I changed it. Yeah, so that is our Discord server. I'm going to pin it real quick. There we go. I would highly recommend everybody join our Discord server. I am in there quite a bit. If you need to contact me for any reason, that is the best way to do it. With all that said, I hope you all have a beautiful day, and goodbye. And I'm not going to click the end button right away because I always cut off me saying goodbye. So, alright.